The union representing state corrections officers says the inmate who attacked and injured a half dozen guards at Attica Prison earlier this week is the same one who seriously injured a female counselor and a guard at the Lakeview Shock Incarceration Facility back in the month of February. General 2's Dave McKinley says according to the union, the most seriously injured officer needed to be hospitalized. David?
Scott, when we asked the State Department of Corrections to confirm that it was the same inmate in both incidents, it only said the matter is being investigated. But the union is calling for action, specifically reforms to prison reforms.
This is unacceptable.
Kenny Gold, the regional vice president for the Corrections Officers Union, says the 34-year-old inmate was transferred to Attica after that incident at Lakeview less than 2 months ago. Because of that incident and others, he was under an order to wear restraints when moving about the prison. But under the HALT Act, the prison reforms enacted by the state 5 years ago, those restraints must come off when an inmate is attending classes or programs. And in both cases, according to Gold, that's when the inmate lashed out against staff.
Changes need to be made, and nobody's listening to the changes that can actually effectuate some real safer prisons and better environments for everybody working and living there.
Being allowed to restrain inmates prone to violence during programs and classes is just one of the 10 recommendations made by a committee formed to review the HALT Act as a condition to end a 3-week-long wildcat strike by corrections officers last year. Gold was on the committee. How many of those recommendations have they adopted so far?
There's been zero at all.
Changing the law is up to state lawmakers, but Republican State Senator George Borrello says there's not much of an appetite to reform HALT among majority Democrats. So he's calling on Governor Hochul to intervene.
A permanent change will require an act of the legislature, but the governor can act unilaterally by executive order, and she could certainly declare a state of emergency in our prisons, which she should do because it is a dangerous state right now, and she could enact changes and suspend HALT.
He reasons that if Hochul runs the state and the state runs the prisons,
she is responsible for the safety of those employees and of the inmates. If any private sector employer intentionally did not address the dangerous situations that she has created, they'd be brought up on charges.
We did reach out to the governor's office, where a spokesperson, despite us asking, did not tell us exactly whether or not Kathy Hochul is trying to negotiate any changes to HALT as part of the ongoing budget process. However, he did say that the governor will review any bill that passes both houses of the legislature. He also insisted the governor cannot unilaterally make changes to state law. But Borrello points out, and correctly, that is precisely what she did when she suspended the HALT Act during that wildcat strike last year. On your side in the studio, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.